Welcome back. In this video we're going to look at the third most popular variation facing the Kan Sicilian and many of the unpopular sidelines. So let's go ahead and get into our typical Kan position that we've seen. And let's start with A4. Now this move is seen very rarely, just basic prophylaxis against the B5 idea. You just develop normally, and this is one of the few times we'll see the move knight c6. But honestly, you can get a playable position many different ways, but you really shouldn't be intimidated by these types of captures. I mean, if e5 right now, queen a5 check wins the pawn, so always be looking for that tactic if they haven't castled. So that's why e5 isn't being played here. And after castles, now e5 is a threat, so we play e5 ourselves. And after f4, you can quickly see that black has absolutely no problems. So if in this position, just typical development, we play e5 anyway. Again, stopping the e5 idea. And after d5, it's clear that black has no problems. So let's say if f4, anytime they allow us to play b5 and get some space, let's just go ahead and put some immediate pressure against e4. So a4, it's interesting try, just push by. So I think at this point it's safe to say that we can just develop our pieces normally. I mean, I don't have a problem with e5, I'll just go to e4. I mean, after d5, I don't think black has any problems. So after queen e2, d6, and I feel like g6 is the best move, as we're set up against an f5 thrust, and now we have a position that's very solid, and we're intending to play knight f to e4 with counterplay here. So the thing that I want to show you in showing you some of these sidelines is that you can typically get a solid position no matter what. And this is one of the first times we've seen g6 used in the sidelines. Anytime this bishop can't easily come out to do work over here, typically g6 is going to parry the threat of f4, f5 because we've added as much pressure as possible to stop it. So say b3, and this is much like a hedgehog structure, where instead of the bishop on e7, we've saved time and put it on g7, making it more aggressive. Black gets his break in the center, and this is just a playable position. And the last of the sidelines I'll show you is with g3, and I like the immediate idea of going ahead and playing d5. There's not many solid options for white here. If he takes, we take with the queen, and he's losing tempi for no reason. So let's say e5. I think this is the most ambitious way to play with queen c7 and taking the pawn. But I mean, all you have to do is secure the queen, get out of the center. And I really like that move, bishop c7. But all you have to do is play solidly. White's got extra time. There's nothing to freak out about. And after rook b7, black has a slight edge. He's going to begin to uncoil now. So let's focus on the third most popular variation now, and it is bishop e2. And this video should show, above all else from the other videos, that the Kan Sicilian is a very intuitive position. As long as you know some of the basic ideas, like not giving away the d5 or b5 squares, as in pushing e5 or a5, and always looking to attack the center by flanking with b5, you should be fine. So that being said, they haven't prevented b5, you typically want to play it. Now, If they play a4, which we've seen many times, you just play b4. And after castles, this just secures the pawn. But I already feel like black is getting more in the position than white is. To rook e1, I really like knight e7, and this is heading for g6. And I mean, this knight e7 to g6 maneuver has a merit of protecting the king once it's castled. And it also increases the control over the e5 square. So we're not so worried about these types of ideas where they play e5 and then knight d2 to e4 to d6 and giving us problems. So he's already trying to get to d2, so we have to prevent this e5 idea and knight e4 idea. So it's just, the drawback is it's cutting the defense away from the b4 pawn. So we've just got to focus on preventing this main idea from white at all times. After b3, knight g6. And again, we see a pretty typical structure for black. The only difference between our other lines is the knight's on g6, but of course it's always focusing on preventing the idea of e5. So c3, knight d5, takes, queen d8. We're finally ready to castle, and we've gotten out of the center. White has some aggressively placed pieces with the rook on c7, but the strong knight on e5 I still feel like is enough compensation here. Just after rook b8, bishop g5, now there's no f4, we've secured our knight. d5, and black's got at least an equal position here. So let's go back instead of this move a4. So after b5, let's say if bishop e3, bishop e7, and this isn't a very threatening setup. So after knight f6, f3, knight c6, bishop c6, and this avoids giving away the c4 square for this knight because we're always trying to prevent that maneuver. So bishop c6 is a very strong idea. Takes, c3, and this is pretty straightforward. Now, another idea would be if bishop f3 immediately. This will probably transpose into the game unless they play e5. So after knight c6, the same idea with knight c7. This is just comfortable for black. And the most frequent move in practice is going to be castle kingside, the main line. And we play bishop b7 immediately, so this forces white to make a decision in regards to the e-pawn. We've already seen a4, so say for instance queen d3. f4 lets black develop normally. And after e5, need to play rook d8, knight d5, and there's nothing substantial here for white. You just need to make sure you're getting solid counterplay, c5, c4. So I really don't see how white's going to make much use of knight d2 to e4 in this variation. So if, I'm sorry, after rook e1, this is actually an interesting idea. Bishop f3. You come back, and it's a complex game, but I feel that you got a pawn's worth. You just have to hold on here. And the last of the variations is with bishop f3. And again, we just see this idea with knight c6 and knight g7. And if you haven't seen the theme yet, it's all about e5 in the Kan. So make sure you're controlling that square at all times, otherwise you can get a lost game immediately.